Moment. Joining me now is the New South Wales Opposition leader, Mr Speakman. Mark, thanks so much for your time. We saw these big planning reforms announced yesterday. In that media release, and indeed in the Premier's media conference yesterday, he did pay you credit with offering bipartisanship in this area to try and get homes built. So, does your bipartisanship have a shelf life here? How long is that bipartisanship, and will you support this legislation through the Parliament?
Thanks. Good morning, Laura. Well, look, we approached the Premier late last year. Scott Farlow, our planning spokesman, and I, with Dugald Saunders, the Nationals leader, approached the Premier and his planning minister late last year, offering bipartisanship on planning law reform. Cost of living is the biggest game in town, and the biggest part of cost of living is housing affordability. We know we've got a crisis in New South Wales, particularly in Sydney. Sydney is probably the second most unaffordable housing market in the world. It is a crisis, and it demands statesmanship of all parties. That's why we've made that offer of bipartisanship. We got the 56-page bill yesterday when it was introduced into Parliament. We've had discussions with the Premier and the Planning Minister over the last 6 to 9 months. We'll look at it very closely, but our default position is to be pro-reform, pro-housing. We want to be as constructive as possible. I'll need to take it to Shadow Cabinet, to our joint party room, before it comes back in October for debate, but I'm very keen to have a bipartisan approach on this. Okay,
so barring any surprises in this legislation that has been introduced to Parliament, you will support its passage?
Well, we'll have to look at the detail, but as I say, our default position is to say why not rather than why. And unless there is something startling in it, then we're inclined to support the legislation.
Okay. Do you think you'll get any pushback from Shadow Cabinet or the Shadow Party room?
Oh, look, well, again, we've got to look at the detail. We've only just got the 56-page bill yesterday. I mean, it's a complex piece of legislation. It took the Planning Minister half an hour to introduce it into Parliament yesterday. His speech went for over half an hour. So there's a lot of detail there. But as well as meeting the Premier and the Planning Minister, we've been talking to industry figures, construction, housing industry people over the last 9 months to get an idea of what they want to do. There are many things in the bill that reflect what the housing industry is telling us, particularly the idea of a one-stop shop. That's been very successful in Queensland. The government is proposing that in New South Wales, and that looks like a good idea.
Do you think the this corrects the kind of balance of power, if you like, for councils to really hold up these DAs? Does this, as I put it to the Premier, kneecap them a little bit? And do you think that's about right where the balance of power should be?
Look, I don't think it kneecaps councils, but at the end of the day, what's more important than council vanity is getting housing delivered. It's a crisis in New South Wales. People under 40 basically can't afford to buy a home unless they've got the bank of mum and dad. That's just completely unacceptable. So the balance has to be tilted towards home buyers and renters.
Sure, it is. There's always a little bit of suspected politics at play here with the Woollahra train station, for example. A lot of the column inches dedicated to the analysis of that as well. That was easy to do because that is not a Labor-held seat, and so they're not going to get a lot of political pushback. Do you believe that to be true?
Well, look, there may or may not have been politics in it, but I'm looking at the merit of the proposal. We support an uplift around Woollahra Station. We support the construction of the Woollahra Station, but having said that, I doubt very much that area is capable of 10,000 new homes. When you've got a reasonably dense area already, it's hard to see how the government is going to get 10,000 new homes. And just on that, they aren't fans of our Long Bay proposal. We've suggested selling off Long Bay Prison, relocating the prison somewhere else in New South Wales outside Sydney, and using that well-located land for up to 10,000 new homes. Now, it's not a choice between Woollahra and Long Bay. You can do both. The government should be doing both, and they should get on board with our Long Bay proposal. If Chris Minns is saying we need Eastern Sydney to fulfil its fair share of housing uplift, well, here's a golden opportunity at Long Bay. He should get on board with that.
Do you think, when it comes to your noble bipartisanship on the need to reform planning, get homes built in New South Wales at rapid speed, is that bipartisanship only predicated on you being the leader? Without you as leader of the Liberal Party in New South Wales, would that all fall away?
Well, I am the leader and I will continue to be the leader up to the next election. I think there's a general consensus within the Liberal Party. We have to change the dial when it comes to planning law, and that's why we're offering bipartisanship. But planning law reform is only part of the game. Where the government is failing is dealing with record state government taxes and charges on new homes. They're the highest on record, they're the highest on country, and they are contributing to making new homes unfinancial to build. So you can have all the rezonings and upzonings and planning law reform in the world, but unless builders can make a profit out of building new homes in greenfield sites or greater density around train stations and so on, you're not going to get the homes built. And Chris Minns and Labor are failing to address that fundamental issue. They're also failing to budget adequate infrastructure. When you have greater density and infill and greenfield development, you've got to have the matching schools, the hospitals, the public transport, the roads, the open space. And instead, the government is cutting its infrastructure spend as a share of the state economy by about 30% in the next several years. So they're going in the opposite direction when it comes to services and infrastructure.
When you look towards the next election and you being leader, do you think your federal colleagues bickering over whether to dump net zero is helping your prospects there in New South Wales?
Well, disunity is death. We have to stop talking about each other and talking about what matters to the people in New South Wales. So my focus is always on cost of living, on housing affordability, on hospital waiting lists, trains that aren't running on time, congested roads, lack of open space. That's what I'll be talking about 7 days a week.
Okay. Mark Speakman, thanks so much for your time as always. See you soon.